Here we are, folks. We're here with the new MTH UP Big Boy. What's special about this particular one is this is their latest model, which is supposed to represent 4014, the one that runs today in its present form. So we're going to take a look at it here. And these batch of big boys just came out. Nothing particularly different about the tooling of these. MTH has been doing big boys for probably close to 10 years now. What is a little bit different about this one is that the box is kind of in this straight across as opposed to having the tender and the engine kind of wrapped separately, which I'm kind of more of a fan of that. I don't really like these long box designs. This type of boxing is something that Broadway has recently started to do on a lot of their models, so I guess MTH is copying that or something. I guess stealing Broadway's tooling wasn't enough. That's a joke, MTH. Please don't sue me. So let's get into unboxing it here. And I have not actually unboxed it yet. Instructions, don't care. Phone, whatever. Here's the model. And see what we have here. Looks like we have an extra driver, some smoke. Little cap for the, I think they're called smoke diverters, or something like that. The little wrench to take off the side rods. Looks like a coupler, something for the front pilot there. And of course the model. Ooh, boy, this thing's got some heft to it, for sure. Open here, very clearly marked. Feels very cold. It's been sitting on my porch for a couple hours. There's a piece of foam here that we need to get out. Okay, so at first glance here, I'm going to want to check it over to make sure there's no parts missing. I already see a problem. Crap. So I immediately noticed a problem here. It appears this section of railing right here is kind of smashed down, and there was this white residue here. I'm not sure what that is, but you can see there that this is kind of smashed down there. Hopefully I can bend that back. We'll see. So let's take a look over the rest of it. Just taking a look at the back here. And it looks like they went away from using their proto couplers and just went with the standard KD there. Bearing caps are correctly silver as they should be. It is pretty, that's for sure. One thing I also notice here is that the wheels are not blackened out. And we'll go over a direct comparison with the Broadway in a moment, as soon as we look over this one. Going around to the front end here. So continuing on here with the details along this, one other thing I forgot to mention is that the boiler here, very so slightly, you can see it has the chalk writing which says Big Boy on it, which is cool. It is kind of hard to see, both under the camera and in person. That could probably be a bit better. Moving on. One thing with these top parts here that are red, Not entirely sure that those are supposed to be red. I'll have to look at some overhead shots of 4014 to see. The Broadway does not have any red anywhere. And I believe, yeah, these are definitely not red on the prototype. We'll look at some pictures later here. And again, bearing caps are correct, being silver. So I think that's it for all the different close-ups of it there. One other slight thing I'm noticing here is that there's no little walkway here. You can see that there's the holes here for one, but it's not in any part of the box. Doesn't appear in the manual, which, taking a look at that, that's really about all it covers. There's one more page here which just goes over like lubrication, but this doesn't even have a list of like the DCC functions at all. Pretty poor manual. I was getting ready to take this over to the workbench, and one other thing I came across that I'm not a fan of is the manner in which these engines are connected. There doesn't appear to be a way to disconnect them. And they're just kind of screwed together there. Which also means I think that you can't move these any closer. So that kind of looks a little goofy with that gap there. So I'm going to take it over to the workbench and see if we can straighten out that railing here, and I'll report back. So we're going to take a look at the details here versus just a quick photo of the big boy that I googled there. And first of all, I was able to fix this. I just kind of stuck a fingernail in there and pulled it right up, and it seemed to come back out of there. So that's fixed, and I managed to get rid of that white packing residue that was on there. So that's good now. So no damage at least now. Taking a look over the actual engine, of course the wheels are black, which we already took a look at. Is not the case on the model here, but I mean, of course you can paint that. This little front part here is kind of rusted on the actual big boy now, or it looks like it's kind of a gold color from there. Of course on the model it's just black. And these body cladding panels up here appear to be shiny, and also in front of the hatch here there's a little doohickey there which does not appear to be here. Also this red little part here doesn't seem to be on the actual thing. And just looking up the sides here, the next part that appears to be pretty massively wrong here, looking at that section of the engine, there's really only one pipe that's there. And then also along the bottom here, it does not have the ash pans, which this still has the ash pans. And it has all of this additional piping here, which should not be there. Coincidentally, the dude in here wearing red was also wearing red here, so they did get that right. Taking a look at the other side here, looking at an actual photo of the prototype. Again, the part that seems massively wrong is this section right here, which there appears to be really nothing there. And this one little line just above the wheels. Now looking at here, this has this thing here and these brightly red colored wheels that shouldn't be there. And also, of course, much closer together between the tender. Which, I get that you do need some separation in order to negotiate tight curves. I get that. And there's Mr. Ed Dickens in there, driving the thing. Kind of a quick look at the both of them there. So now that we've taken a look at it close up, let's see how it runs and how it sounds. So for these, you can either hit F3, which will start it up, or you can simply hit the throttle a little bit, similar to a BLI, which I'll do that. And just powers up there. Got our front headlight. F5 is actually for the number boards and the marker lights right here. And you can see it's very, very dull. You can barely even tell that the number boards are lit, to be honest. If I kill the light here, you can see a little better. Turn them off. Back on again. Not nearly as bright as what the Broadway is for that part. And you'll hear that high-pitched humming is actually the smoke unit, which, I'll turn that off here. It's extremely loud. So we'll go through the sounds here. Pretty nice bell. I really like that horn, but you'll notice in the tender there's some real resonance rattle back there. And it just sounds kind of fuzzy back there. We got our forward and reverse signals. And we got our grade crossing. Now that is a darn shame. That is probably the coolest grade crossing sequence that I have ever heard on an engine. But it's just ruined by that lack of clarity from the rear speakers. Sounded awesome though. That was on the F11 function, and F12 controls that smoke unit. Now, from what I understand, this is actually supposed to have whistle smoke, but I have not noticed that working just yet. Well, if there is a whistle smoke effect, I do not see it. Possible that might be a DCS only feature. I do have an MTH DCS commander, which I might just break out here in a little bit to take a look at that part. Now, the other thing I want to show you is the rear section.
Conductor's giving us a highball signal.
I thought it was really cool that they have that top marker light there, which is kind of the opposite of the BLI. That part's dead on the BLI, but it has marker lights to both sides. Really doesn't sound bad at all. It's just that speaker resonance back there. So let's see what it does in terms of running characteristics. We'll go ahead and wind it up here and see what kind of speed it has. Somewhat noisy motor, I think, too. We'll mute it here for a second. Oh, that's the wrong mute. There we go. 58 mile an hour. Pretty slow. It's actually pretty quiet. $59 miles an hour. Well, no amount of braking in is going to make that a whole lot faster. That's pretty slow. These should be able to do about 80 top speed, which is what the BLI one does. We'll give it one more pass here. I don't expect. Yep, 59. Well, that's that. We'll see how it does on the slow end of things. Wait for it to get a little closer here. Does have some momentum built into it. Took a while to get slowed down there. That's at speed step 4. Get a little closer, we'll knock it down to 1. Alright, we're at speed step 1. Let's see how it does at a crawl here. Pretty smooth. Not jerking around at all. Good motor control. at least on the low end of things. I expect that to probably be less than 1 scale mile an hour. Yep, just above, or just below, I'm sorry, 0.9. So, pretty good there. So, let's see now if MTH can win at least something. So, we got it on the left-hand side here, and on the right-hand side, we got the BLI. So, let's see who does it in the tug-of-war. I think the MTH will win this, just based on it being a little bit smoother at lower speeds, and also I've noticed on bigger loads on the BLI one that it tends to stall and sit there and hum and it won't really go. The MTH I don't think will have that issue, so we'll see. Kind of a dead heat at this point. We're at speed step 5. The MTH has moved a little bit ahead. Locked pretty even. Well, MTH even lost that one. So we're going to do a detail comparison here versus the Broadway, and first up is the front end here, and just instantly your first impression is the lighting difference, and that it's just so much nicer on the Broadway, which is here on the left hand side. The camera doesn't really do it justice. There is a much greater difference in person, especially on the headlight. This you can like see the little LED bulb in here, whereas this you really can't. It's just diffused a lot better there. And also, of course, the number boards here don't even look like they're lit. Very clearly lit over there. And moving along to the top, which I'm going to go off the tripod here for that. As we take a look at the differences here at the top, and you'll notice there's not that red in there as there should not be. And we looked at pictures of the prototype, there's really no red anywhere on that engine. These should actually be black, so MTH did get that part right, but they made this red, which should not be red, which is correct over here. And they just completely omitted the dynamo, which does appear on the Broadway one. Looking at the detail here on the top of the tenders, kind of blank here, a little bit over here. And then looking at the back ends, kind of opposite problems here. This has lit marker. Well, my battery died there, so I had to stop for a little bit. But moving along here, continuing with the back end. Some other things I noticed here as well is there's like no detail around the rear coupler there on the MTH, whereas at least on the Broadway there's like a Cutler cup lever there, and there's a little air hose that hangs down. She kind of can't see too good, but it is there. Also, taking a look at the actual lengths of the engine, one thing you'll notice here is that the Broadway has a much closer area between them, and it does also have the treaded walkway, which the MTH does not. You'll see it has kind of that massive gap there between them, and you can't move it any closer. Which, as a result, from the top, does make the MTH a tad longer. Looking at fireman side detail, starting with the Broadway here, you'll notice having those black wheels. And also it does have darker tint metallic there on the side rods, as well as the silver that's on here, both in the boiler here and also at the back. The MTH has more of a brighter silver, which if you look at the engine today, it is kind of more like the color tone of the Broadway. It's kind of like a faded gray metallic. And of course those shiny wheels there. Now I will also point out on the Broadway, this did not come from the factory with painted bearing caps. That's something I did on my own, and to be perfectly honest, I think I did a pretty good job on it, because looking at the MTH here, you'll see that it's a little bit sloppy there. Kind of hard to tell, but close up there's a little bit of over off to the side there. Coming back down over the conductor side, I'm sorry, over the engineer side here. This is the Broadway one again. And notice on the Broadway, it more closely resembles the prototype, not having all that piping here. Whereas on the MTH, it does have all this here, which is not actually there on the real thing. Time to wrap it up. Some final thoughts here. So, just upon unboxing it, I like that it's die cast. I wish that all steam engines were die cast. When it comes to diesels, I honestly don't care. I kind of prefer plastic for those, but for steam engines, I like die cast. I like the feel of them. This engine has really good weight. I'm sure it has really good pulling power. I mean, for something like the BLI Big Boy to just barely outpull it, it's a beast. So, that's a given. But when it comes to, 4014, this is just horribly wrong from top to bottom. Some of the fixable issues here with the wheels not being black, you can paint that, you can fix that. So that's not a huge deal. As far as the sound, I think that's a totally fixable issue if you were to take apart the tender and maybe do a speaker swap or properly baffle things or seal them in a little bit better to get rid of that rattle. The sound is probably the strong point of this engine that really carries it. I do like the sounds. I love that grade crossing whistle. I mean, I wish I could take the sound from this and put it in my Broadway. I feel like that would be perfect. The smoke features I thought would typically be an advantage here, but it's virtually non-existent. The whistle smoke effect doesn't seem to work at all. Maybe that's a DCS only feature. I don't know. In terms of detail, like I said, there's a lot here that shouldn't be here, and there's a lot of things missing that should be here. I feel like for maybe a coal engine, at some point I'd like to get 4012, because that's the one that's at Steamtown, not too far from where I live. Well, it's far enough, but it's the only one really around me. I think for a coal burner, this would probably be okay. But for 4014, I just feel like the Broadway is such a better option. Yeah, the sound in the Broadway really does suck, but that's kind of its only real weak point. Everything else is really strong. And in terms of strength, even when you pick this one up, it just doesn't feel as solid as what the BLI one does. In terms of cost, it comes in about $50 cheaper than what the Broadway one was. Unfortunately, there's about zero availability of the Broadway 4014. You can't find that anywhere. Your only chance is someone selling it in Facebook, which nobody really seems to be right now, or on eBay. And on eBay, they could probably go north of $700 or more. So you will pay a pretty penny for those. Probably your best bet is to wait for another run. And this run, like I said, for a coal burner, I would be open to purchasing another one. That being said, the Broadway is probably a better bet, as far as that goes, but there's about zero availability on Broadway big boys at this point. And these MTHs probably will stick around. I'm sure this review probably will not help them move off the shelves. But sorry, I got to be honest about this one. This is probably the most disappointed that I've ever been in an engine that was, north of $300, for sure. I fully bought this one with the expectation that as soon as I bought it, I was probably just going to make the wheels black, call it a day, and sell off my BLI. But the truth be told, I'm probably just going to get rid of this one because I think I'm just going to hold on to my Broadway. There is an upcoming Athearn one, which from a detail standpoint probably will be the most realistic. Unfortunately with that one, it is going to be plastic and it's going to be priced pretty outrageous for being a plastic engine, but that's out I believe later this year, maybe like fall 2020. I probably won't get that one. Maybe I'll get creative or bored and I will decide to get it, but for now, that is it for this one. I really can't recommend this engine. If you really want 4014, there's better options out there. Certainly, probably from Athearn, and also definitely from Broadway. You just may have a little bit of trouble finding them. So really, the only good thing about this engine is it is available, and it's going to be a little bit less than the other two as far as price. So just keep in mind. There's some work that you need to do on these to make them right. Maybe for somebody that's skilled, they could probably remove off those extra pieces on there. Maybe even add some details that are missing. That's up to you. But that's about it for this one. I hope it was informative. I hope you got everything that you needed to know out of it. And I had a lot of fun doing this one. Just a little bit disappointed, and I thought this one was going to be a little bit better. So that's it for this one, guys.